She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays Today podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick. Today, we have on Nikki Rausch, who is an expert in sales. Now, I very openly love sales. The more I study the psychology of it, I just think I find it really fascinating. I love the strategery and the back and the forth. Yeah, really just the game and the psychology of sales. Now, I feel like I need to say this because I know some of you are not chiropractors who listen, and all the chiropractors know because what we really focus on today is more guiding a selling chiropractic. And if you're not a chiropractor, you may be like, "Oh, that's it." We love chiropractic. Chiropractic is the freaking best thing in the entire world. And if we lived in a utopia, well, I don't know if I'd call it a utopia, a world where money was not a thing, everything was traded, and all of our needs were provided, including the yacht I'm going to need in that utopia. I would still recommend the amount of chiropractic that I recommend on a daily basis. I've told patients this. If chiropractic was free, I recommend weekly care to all of my people. I tell my mother-in-law, yeah, if you've got this thing, you need to do a couple times a week for multiple weeks. So I just want to get that out of the way. If anybody's not a chiropractor and they're listening and they're like, ew, you're talking about selling chiropractic. Does that mean that chiropractors are selling something they don't? No, none of that shit. We love chiropractic, but people don't like to invest in themselves. They do not. Man, it would be so much easier if we were selling beauty or weight loss. But really, when it comes to getting results, having someone help themselves through a process. So and even weight loss, more from a personal trainer standpoint, not here's a magic pill, here's GLP-1, do this. No, if we were having to sell how to lose 100 pounds through diet and just exercise, that wouldn't be sexy either. And you would have it's kind of one of those help me help you type of thing. So that's out of the way. We love chiropractic. Don't get weird. Don't get weird on me now that we're talking about selling. But man, I do love selling. I Kirby and I have a joke. It's a joke that one day one of my income streams is gonna be a weapons arms dealer. I just think that sounds like I am important and I am selling weapons. We're not gonna talk about how, destructive that is to the earth or anything like that. Doesn't matter. I like selling. Although it's really funny coming out of a sales period, you gotta have thick skin. When we're talking about not chiropractors, no. We're talking about the people who would have to sell all day long, finding leads, closing leads, whether it's a high ticket salesman for a program or oh, you gotta have some thick ass skin that I think having thick skin because chiropractors don't do a lot of selling. We don't like getting rejection. And so that is something that because of how much I hate rejection, that is probably why because I'm an Enneagram 3. So you saying no to what I'm buying isn't you saying no to a product. You basically told me you think I'm garbage and worthless. So I guess it's really not weird or ironic that I find sales an obsessive thing because my therapist would say I am doing everything in my power to avoid rejection and having to deal with my lack of self-worth. So there's that. But other than that, today I promise is a real good episode. I have nothing to update you in my life except book 3 of Fourth Wing is out. Okay. Onyx Storm is the name of the book. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you're looking for a little dragons and romance in your life, start with Fourth Wing. It's wonderful. I'm looking for my people out there who are reading Onyx Storm. I'm scared. Do you know that this is a 5-book series? We are in book 3. This is dangerous, people. Our hearts are on the line. But I consider the feminine, like reading this fiction stuff, whether it's mystery or murder or romance, it balances. Like, this is what creates the yin and yang. We're going to learn about sales, and then we're going to like read a mystery or a fiction book. This is what creates well rounded humans. All right, let's hear about Nikki. So she's the CEO of Sales Maven. Nikki Rausch has the unique ability to transform the misunderstood process of selling. With 25 plus years of selling experience, entrepreneurs and small business owners now hire Nikki to show them how to sell successfully and authentically. We get into that. Like, selling isn't weird when you believe in what you're like, when you're doing it from an authentic place and you're not like pretending to be someone you're not. Nikki has written 3 books, all available on Amazon, and she has a podcast called Sales Maven, which you can find on your favorite podcast platform. So let's take a breather in, breathe out. Dear God, thank you so much for this present moment. Help us continue to deal with rejection in our own self-worth. Let us know in our hearts that we are absolutely worthy, and to uh, learn to just peel off the layers of what we view selling is. I think it's really the only way, that we can fully communicate what we have to offer people, which is their true health and them stepping into their true selves. So help everybody who's listening today just kind of like self-identify some of their own roadblocks so they can have a huge impact in 2025. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. Without further ado, here is Nikki Rausch, Sales Maven. Enjoy. All right. Well, Nikki, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So what is your background in sales? So you teach people how to sell. Like,
Yes.
what is your background before? Like, they kind of always say that, like, before you teach people to do what you do the
hmm
thing. So do you have a long history in sales, and what were you selling?
Yeah. So I do have a long history in sales. As a matter of fact, I got my first professional sales gig as from a college project. So that's how long I've been doing this. So I've been in sales for over 25 years, actually now close to 30. And I started in the technology space. So I started selling
25 years ago,
um,
what was that? Calculators?
I
Like,
know, I know. It was actually the very first piece of technology was this is gonna really age me. It was flat panel displays that sat on top of overhead projectors. It was the first thing that you could hook to your computer and then sit it on one of those light, those light
okay,
sources
yep,
that your
I
math
remember.
teachers.
Yes, I
Yes,
remember. Okay, so flat
yes,
panel displays that
yes.
sat on top of what? Of
The
projectors?
that overhead projector that your math teacher would put
Yes.
their transparency and write the math problems, and it would project it up onto a screen. It had a light source
Yeah.
below it. So we we sold now they're just projectors, like it's all combined, right? But
Right.
we sold these panels. It looks kind of like, imagine a really fat iPad, like
Yeah.
really fat and heavy iPad that was like it went all the way through, so there wasn't like a
Oh,
back to it,
that's
and it
a
would
cool piece of
sit.
technology.
Yes. So it would sit on this overhead, and then it would project your computer image up onto the screen.
So now we call that a projector, but you were making a computer projectable. That's pretty cool.
So that was the first piece of technology that I ever sold. I did that for a long time. I had a lot of success in I mentioned the technology space, but specifically in audiovisual. So I was
Okay.
on the video side for many, many years of my career and had a lot of success there. I was the top producing rep in North America for one of the largest companies in the world. And I then moved to the audio side, which is a whole different ball game. I started selling encrypted wireless audio conferencing equipment. Like I sold actually to NASA because their all their stuff has to be encrypted. So we had this very unique product. And then in 2013, I started Sales Maven with this idea of wanting to hang around with really cool women. I came from a very male dominated industry. I was usually there was in the
I mean,
last
it's
like
sales seems like it traditionally, I mean, honestly, up until, I mean, we see things like Mad Men, like
yes.
sales was masculine. It was men, right?
Yeah, it was the, like, go out and hunt the big game and, like,
Go on the golf
kill the
course, go to yeah.
yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I never have played golf. Well, I have tried to play golf, but I that was yeah, it was back when golf you take clients golfing. Actually
Mhm,
took clients to do lots of fun things, but it was kind of the heyday, crazy, fun sales times. I spent a lot of time entertaining in addition to selling because that was kind of how you built relationships, and so when I started Sales Maven, it was this idea of like, I was ready to do something different. And I wanted to be around people who were full of passion because I didn't really ever understand when people were like, follow your passion. I was like, I must be passionless because I don't get that comment at all. And so I started hanging out with these super passionate people, which were female entrepreneurs.
mhm.
And the thing that they often struggled with was to make money in their business. And the reason they were struggling is because they didn't understand the selling process. They didn't understand how to have a really interesting conversation with somebody and be strategic and move it to the place where you could actually close them as a client. And I just started helping some of them on the side, wanting to just, again, kind of hang out with them. And my business was eventually born out of somebody pulling me aside, going like, why aren't you teaching
Mhm.
people how to do this? The stuff that you teach, it works, it's easy. This person was getting a lot of results from what I was helping her do. As a matter of fact, her CEO called her and was like, "Something's changed. What's changed? Because your sales are rocking." And she's like, "Oh, I'm working with a sales coach," but I wasn't a sales coach. I was just Nikki.
Right.
And yeah, so Sales Maven was born from that back in 2013. And I will say it's been the best gig I've ever had. I absolutely love the work that I do. And I really specialize in teaching people how to have more successful sales conversations
Mm,
because I truly believe that conversation is where it's at when it comes to making the sale. I always say, selling isn't something that you do to another person, it's something you do with another person. And when you can have successful conversations and be strategic and move them towards that close, then it just gets easier, not just for you as the seller, but
right.
frankly for the buyer too.
Well, and that seems like, I don't know anything about the history of sales or like any of that, but like that seems like the thing that stuck from the Mad Men era or the going on the golf course. So like my when I think about like old school sales, I was actually born in Southern California. And my dad was a salesman for a fire alarm company. He actually, like, helped get into, like, Disney, and so, like, I hear him tell these stories from, like, the heyday of sales in Southern California. So, like, there was a lot of stuff going on, there's, like I'll, like, talk to my mom, they're divorced, and I'm like, "Dad was doing a lot of coke in the '80s, right?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah." There's a so anyway, so when we look at like when I think of like the history of sales,
Ah.
that's my frame of reference. But what I would guess from what you're saying is like one of the things that stuck, one of the things is that it was an emotional connection that happened. Like you went on the golf course for a reason. And so like part of that still stuck. So take us into 2025. Are there general principles to sales, whether you're a man or a woman, that are still just like, these are the hardcore truths that have stood the test of time when it comes to selling?
Yes, absolutely. And I was in the 90s, so my heyday wasn't the Coke, but it was a lot of other crazy things. I've got stories. Boy, do I have stories. So, but the thing that has it's this relationship. So I always say that everything I teach is built on the foundation of rapport. So you got to have rapport first and always in the conversation. And so one, here's the tried and true things that I think are so crucial that were the same back then
I'm
that
sorry,
are
I actually don't know what rapport means. Like, I
okay.
would use it regularly as if I did, but, like, is rapport, I have authority you should listen to me, or is it we've
No.
connected on our children both play soccer?
Rapport, it could be that we've connected on our children both play soccer, but it's really that let me maybe give you an experience and see if this is relatable to you at all. Have you ever had an opportunity where you met somebody for the first time and within 10 minutes you just feel like, where's this person been all my life?
All the
Like,
time.
I just feel,
Most of
okay,
my
it's like,
guests, by the end, I'm like, we're
okay,
best friends now.
exactly. Okay, so that is that connection. So there's actually a term for it. It's called, well, let me, I feel like I'm going off the rails here, but
Oh,
it's
sorry
called
about that.
entrainment. So entrainment is like how we get in connection with another person. This happens in nature, entrainment, and synchronization. We love to sync up with people. And I'll give you an example of this. As women, if you put a bunch of women working in an office together or living in a home together, do you know what happens?
Our periods sync up.
Yes. But for anybody listening, especially males, have you ever had a meeting like, okay, girls, let's all start on Monday? No,
Wait, no.
because you don't need to, because your bodies do it naturally. You
Right.
sync up naturally with people that you spend time with and around.
Mhm.
So that happens over time, but there are things that you can do to get in rapport with somebody, to get in sync with somebody quicker by paying attention to your own behavior and theirs and making some adjustments. Now, the flip side of this is, have you also ever met somebody and 10 minutes into the conversation you feel like, "Oh my gosh, has it been 2 hours? I need a nap. This
Yes.
person is exhausting." Okay, so those are people that are so out of sync with you that it's almost uncomfortable to be in conversation with them.
And it's their fault, right? Like, if you're naturally good, like, they just suck, or because, like, some people are just unsinkable. Like, listen,
Well,
we're in healthcare, so we deal with, like, people, and this is not their fault. Most of the
no,
time,
no,
these
no.
people are just, like, chronic pain, let me tell you. Well, back in 1991, I was riding a horse, and you're like, "For fuck's sake, Mary, I am trying to connect with you, and this is not working."
Yeah, I don't need the life story
Right.
to make an adjustment here. Yeah, I get that.
So 10
Well,
minutes in, we're not connecting.
10 minutes in, yeah. Now, if you want to expand your customer base, there's ways to add flexibility to your behavior to make it easier for that person to be in conversation with you. And then what will happen is you can start adjusting back to your normal style. And as long as you guys have this rapport, they will start making adjustments to you and you'll find a happy medium with
How do we do
this.
this?
So one of the ways is you pay attention to rate of speech. That's one way that you can do it. So I don't know. I've listened to your podcast, but I listen to podcasts on a little bit faster speed just because I like a little bit faster talkers. So think about on a spectrum, on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is somebody who's a really, really fast talker. Sometimes they don't even take breaths between their sentences. They have a thought, it comes right out of their mouth, and they just kinda keep talking. So that's somebody that's on the really high. And then on the other side is somebody who really takes their time. I can already tell, Lauren, like you're ready to like smack me, right? It's like, speed up, Nikki. Like
Right.
nobody wants to talk that. So, but the fact of the matter is that some people have this might be surprising. It was to me to learn. Some people have thoughts. They actually
They
think
keep
about
in their
them.
head. Yeah.
And then sometimes they decide not to actually say them. Who
I've
are these
I've
people?
heard of these people. I've heard
Mhm.
of these people.
I know. Okay. So when you meet somebody who has a different rate of speech than you, it can be uncomfortable to be in conversation with them for very long, for you, but also for them. So if you want to earn their business, if they are a potential client and you know, like, gosh, I can help them. If you're willing to adjust your rate of speech just a bit, you don't have to match it. You like if you're a 7 and they're a 3, that's a huge spectrum difference, right? There's a lot there. But if you would be willing to just slow down to like a 5, what will happen is they will start to speed up to like a 4. And then you can find yourself back at like a 6, 6.5, and they might even get up to like a 4.5. And now it's not so uncomfortable to be in conversation because they'll start to adjust to you because it's back to this entrainment. It takes less energy to be in sync with somebody than it does to be out of sync. This is why people who you feel like this person has drained me, I don't want to ever talk to them again. It's
Right.
because they're so out of sync with you.
Okay.
So if you're willing to adjust, so I always say my
Yeah.
all-time favorite quote is blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape.
All right, so changing speed. What's
Pay
another
attention to your rate of speech.
Yeah. What's another way to establish rapport with someone?
Another way to establish rapport with somebody is to, and I'm gonna go real sales here, and
Yeah.
I could go, like, we could just do the whole conversation on this, and I could
Right.
go, like, tick, tick, tick down the line of all these ways. But one of the ways is to, instead of making statements at people, ask questions.
Ah, I suck at this.
Okay. This is a game changer when it comes to selling. So you had asked earlier about, like, what are those tried and true things that translate back from the 80s all the
Mhm.
way now here in 2025. And it really comes down to, if you want to be good at sales, you have to learn how to ask better questions and ask questions that you then pause and let the person respond to.
Mhm.
You don't ask a question and then answer it for them and then keep moving, because that breaks rapport.
Mhm.
But if you will ask a question versus make a statement at somebody. So for instance, let's say you are, talking to a potential client as a chiropractor, and you have a sense that they need to adjust maybe their posture, right? You could say to them, you really need to adjust your posture.
Your posture
And
sucks. You're gonna
yeah, your
look like,
posture
that old
sucks.
hump lady?
Yep.
You're gonna be her unless you change. That they
Yeah.
told they say yes.
Yeah. But if you want to if you want it to land softly and keep the rapport intact, instead of saying your posture sucks, you need to change it, you could say, "Now, have you ever considered what a change to your posture might actually do for you long term?"
It just takes so much more time to, get
But
them. Yeah.
do
Uh-huh.
you want patient compliance?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, and getting people on board, like, I've definitely this is, like, a really common thing of, like, the Socratic method where it's, like, when th you can tell them something, but when
Yeah.
you get them to discover it about themselves, it's so much more lasting in this, and it's like, God, how do you get better at, like, asking questions instead of just telling people?
Yeah. One is that you make a commitment to yourself that you are going to ask questions that, and even if it's just that you start with one question, you might come up with, like, this is my question, and I'm going to ask everybody this question. Like today, everybody I come into contact with. So, the thing about getting better at sales, I truly believe everybody can be successful at selling. It doesn't matter your personality. It doesn't matter even if you're a curmudgeon, you can still be successful at sales. It's a skill and you learn it. And it's like a muscle. And just like how, if you decided, like, I really want to buff up my arms, or I want to tighten up, this like extra stuff that I got going on. And you decide, okay, I'm going to start doing, this is something I do every morning. I do counter push-ups. Like, I
Mm, mhm.
push-ups from my counter. Okay. So when I started, like, I couldn't do 50. No way. I had to build up to 50. And now I do 50 every morning. It's like part of my routine before I get into the shower, 50 counter push-ups, and I can do them easily. But when I started, 10 was hard. So you have to build a muscle. So just like with selling, just like with asking questions, it's like building a muscle. It means you have to practice. You have to
Can you
do
give
it
me
over
some
and over
good
again.
questions? Like, are there, like, within sales teaching, are there, like,
Yeah.
okay, you don't know what because that's the other thing is you said ask good questions.
Yes. Yes.
Like, are there some, like, seeds to good questions that I can
Yes.
just steal from
Yes.
you? Okay.
Okay. There are 2 types of questions. First, I wanna
I'm
comment
so
on
glad we're
that with
talking about
selling.
this.
Okay, good.
Because
There's the questions that I call are the questions to identify that you're talking to a right fit client. So these are questions like, what's important to you in regards to your health, for instance? That is going to help you identify, like, could this potentially be a client? Or is this somebody who's like, I don't care about health at all. As a matter of fact, I don't even think health is a thing. Probably not going to ever hire a chiropractor, right?
right.
Like, if they don't really care about health. So, like, what's important to you about this? That's a, like, kind of a right fit type question. Or what are you willing to invest in order to solve this problem? That's a right fit question. Because if you're talking to somebody and they're like, I might spend $10, well, they're not going to get a treatment for $10. So they
Right.
might be a bless and release. Like, don't waste your time on people who are not good fit clients. So those are the right fit questions. Okay. And there's more. As a matter of fact, I just shot a training yesterday on this. And then there's what I call the expertise questions. These are the ones that plant seeds about really how awesome you are and how working with you is going to be the game changer in their business. Now, a lot of people, instead of asking these type of expertise type questions, they want to just tell people their feeds and speeds, right? It's like, here's my resume. Here's all that I've accomplished. I've done this. I've done that. I've helped this person. I've helped that person. But that's okay. But realistically, to somebody who's more interested in what's going on for them, because most of us think the whole world revolves around us. I don't know if you've noticed, but everything that happens is happening to me, for me, or against me. Like
Mhm.
there's kind of nothing else. And so your prospective clients are the same. So you giving your like resume basically about all your accomplishments, that's not very interesting to them because it doesn't really make a difference to them.
How do I
But if
ask a
you
question?
yeah.
Yeah.
So here's one of the things I recommend doing is thinking about what are the things that make you unique? What are your unique benefits or advantages? So for instance, if you have one right off the top of your head, Lauren, I'm happy to like play this with you a little bit.
So we're the only pediatric trained chiropractor for, like,
Okay.
40 miles.
That that
So it'd
is
be so let me would I be like, is taking your child to someone who actually knows what the hell they're doing important to you, or do you not care? Would I ask
yeah.
that question?
Yeah. Now, you might soften it a
Let's
little.
soften it.
Okay. So you might say, how important is it to you that when you take your child to see a chiropractor, that they're actually trained in pediatrics? Because now you just planted the seed. Like, why would you ask that question if you weren't trained and if your staff wasn't like an expert on that?
Mhm.
So now, because nobody has ever asked them that question, they don't know how important it is. But as soon as you ask their brain, how important is it to you? Now they're like, it's really important. Now it's a priority. It's different than you saying, we're the only trained pediatric,
Yeah.
because now that doesn't require any thinking on their part. But if you ask them a question, our brains are like Google. If you ask Google a question right now, it doesn't matter what the question is, Google is trying to give you an answer. But you have to ask Google a question before it can give you an answer. Brains are the same way. So you got to ask them a question so they can realize how important it is that pediatric chiropractic is a thing. And I'm going to take my child to a specialist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I feel like they're gonna see me coming though. So like in general, I have a lot less mindset issues with sales than like the average chiropractor.
Hmm.
I think a lot of chiropractors are just, they're very because you go into this profession, you go into healthcare because you want to help people, right?
Of course.
And then like I didn't realize until maybe not even halfway through chiropractic school, like it was like semester 2 that I was like, wait, not everybody just, like, loves the chiropractor? Like, I'm gonna have to, like, sell? Because, like, dentists don't have to sell, like, vets don't have to sell, pediatricians don't have to sell, like, no the other like, chiropractic is this, like, unique and, healthcare where you're like,
Hmm.
"I have to sell people on it?" So, a lot of chiropractors really struggle with this. Where I still struggle is like, if I go buy a car, and some guy comes up to me and, like, whatever, and it can be okay, we don't need to pick on the man, like, it's a chick comes up to me and starts, like, saying certain things. In my head, I'm like, "I fucking know what you're doing. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing, and you're not doing that good of a job at it, actually." Like, because the real good salespeople you don't see. So, like, my fear is I'm gonna ask this question
Hmm.
and they're gonna be like, "I know what you're doing," and they're gonna see me selling to them because I don't want them to feel like they're being sold to. Does
Well, okay. I have a
that
few
make
comments
sense?
back to
Yes,
that. Yes,
please.
it does. Here's the thing, your job in a sales conversation, there's three things. One is to identify, am I talking to a potential client? Like, do they have a problem, a
Right.
need, or some kind of a struggle? Right.
Yep, they've got a spine. Yep, they are a
Yeah.
potential client.
Okay. So the second thing is, do I have a solution that would potentially solve this problem, meet this need, help with the struggle? Right.
Yep.
Now, here's the third one. And this is the one that most people skip is, do I have permission to put that solution in front of them?
Okay, tell me more
Okay.
because they called my
Okay.
office. Yeah.
Yeah, so they called your office. So you do have some implied permission here. You're not just going up to some random dude on the street saying, "I'm looking at your posture. You really need chiropractic. And as a matter of fact, here's my card. You should call us tomorrow and make an appointment." Like that person would be like, "I don't know you, lady, from anybody else, and I don't really appreciate it." Like
Right.
we don't like when people just come at us. But when somebody has that, like, I'm calling to investigate or I'm calling to find out more, I'm actually calling you. You're in the consultation. There is somewhat of an implied agreement. Now, before you put a solution in front of them, you might still ask permission again. You might ask a few qualifying questions to make sure they're a good fit for the practice. And then you could say, based on what you shared, it does sound like you would be an ideal candidate for some of our programs. Is it okay if I talk you through those now? Because now I just asked permission. I don't go right into sales like, oh
What
my gosh,
happens? Why is that important?
because they're ready now to hear the offer. So they're ready to now be sold to. They've just given you permission. Go ahead and sell to me. If they don't give you that permission and you just skip this step, you're kind of like the person who accosts somebody who's going into the grocery store to buy milk and wants you to buy their thing or sign up for their program.
Even though they're sitting in my office and like,
There's a little bit of
no,
like,
I mean,
let's just check
when
to
you
see.
say it, it makes sense where it's like I can see where that conversation feels better now. But it's just something I would have never thought to do of like, can I tell
Yeah.
you what you're sitting here to find out?
Yeah. Now again, it's back to this idea of like their brain is now engaged mode, right? It's not like you can't just pull up Google and just sit and look at it and expect it to do something. You have to ask it a question. If you want their brain to be engaged about the offer that you're about to put in front of them, we got to get their brain engaged. We got to ask them the question because as soon as they say, "Yes, tell me about the programs," they're leaning in, they're listening, they're paying attention.
Mhm. Am I asking them when am I asking them how important is it to take your child to this? What are your health goals? How invested are you? Is that conversation happening before the "Can I tell you?" Or does that
It's
happen?
happening before
Okay.
typically.
So
Yeah, the
those are happening
questions yeah,
before as I'm, like,
yeah,
gathering, and then I'm
mhm,
like, "Would you like to hear what I think?" Basically.
yeah. So just to maybe put some clarity to this, I teach a 5-step process to a sales conversation. I call it the selling staircase. I actually wrote my 3rd book around it. And the reason I teach, a successful sales conversation in the like, this idea of a staircase is because most people understand that you ascend a staircase one step at a time. You don't stand at the bottom and hop up to the top stairs. And you definitely don't bring somebody out of the blue and put them at the bottom of a staircase and say, just trust me, hop up to the top. They'll look at you like, hey, crazy lady, no thanks. I might bang my shins or
Mhm.
stumble or, sprain an ankle. So, this idea of this staircase is to help people understand where am I in the sales conversation and what's the logical next step. So, you don't go necessarily right from, I just met you, buy my thing. Because
Right.
we all get those all day long, right? They're showing
Mhm.
up in our emails, they're showing up at the grocery store, they're showing up everywhere. People just like, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. And you're like, I don't even know what your thing is. So, just to break down these steps
Yeah,
really
I was
quick.
gonna say, I was like, "No, I need to know the steps now."
So, step one is introduction. This is about making a powerful first impression. Now, if they have called you, they're already past step one because they wouldn't know about you otherwise. But if you're out and about in the community, if you're at a networking event, or if somebody's hearing you on the podcast for the first time, your job is to make a powerful first impression to get people going, like, who is this? Or what's this about? Or like, I'm interested to listen. Step two is create curiosity. This is the most missed step in the selling process. This can happen on social media. This can happen on your website. This can happen in a conversation with you. We got to pique people's interest. So when you tell me that you're out and about and you're meeting people that are like, I have to explain chiropractic, I have to actually sell chiropractic because it's not dentistry. I think that was kind of the example
Mhm.
that you gave. Well, you have to learn how to create curiosity. And speaking of dentists, my dentist had in his office this big poster that used to say, you don't have to brush all your teeth,
Just the
only
ones
the
you wanna
ones you
keep.
want to keep. Okay. So you don't have to create curiosity for everybody you come into contact with, only the ones who you would like to become patients or clients, depending on what you call your
How
people.
do I create curiosity? Because
Okay,
right
that's
now
a
in my
whole course
head,
in
I
itself.
am like being very coy and like, "What do you do? Wouldn't you like to know?"
Okay, now that's a little bit okay,
Too much,
that might
too
that might take it a little bit too far,
much.
but, I feel like you can take this because this is gonna sound like, okay, you got a crazy lady on your podcast, but I feel like that you might enjoy this. So I compare creating curiosity to the difference between how you call a dog and how you call a cat. So bear with me for just a second here.
Mhm.
So if you think about how people call their dogs, I don't do are you a dog or a cat lover?
I'm a dog lover, but I also have a cat, but
Okay.
my cat's an asshole, so
Okay, so you know you can't call your cat the same way you call your
no.
dog. If you say to your dog right now, like, come here, baby, or come here, boy, or come here, girl, whatever, right? Your dog is probably like, I don't even know what's gonna happen, but I'm so in. It could be a
Mhm.
walk, it could be a bath, it could be a treat, it could be a ride in the car. I don't care. I'm just in, right?
Yep.
Like dogs love that. You change your demeanor, you change that, like you change your voice even when you call your dog, and they're so in. Unfortunately, in a sales conversation or when you're meeting people for the first time and you're really passionate about chiropractic, of course you are, because you know
Oh,
it
I see
works.
where you're going. This is a really good yeah.
And if you come off with dog calling energy, people push away. They go like, "Oh, too much. It's too strong. It's too much." It's like, and I don't know, you've probably met these people before. Like I get these people all the time. You attend a conference, they see you at a conference, and they come up and they're like, you're Nikki Rausch. Oh my gosh, I looked at your website. You know what? You could really use some help with your website. Like your website needs some major improvement. And you know what I do? I do
Let me
websites.
guess, you
Oh
do
my gosh.
websites.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, dog calling energy and offensive, right? Like it's too
Right.
much. Okay. So back to the cat calling. So when you want to call your cat, you got to have a little intrigue. You got to do the like, here, kitty, kitty. And
Mhm.
you said your cat's an asshole. So your cat might
Mhm.
not even come to
I'm
that.
like making like little scratchy noises and
Yeah. But chances are your cat will at least give you a look like, what? Impress me. Let me know if I want to know more.
I have cat energy. Mhm.
So when you want to create curiosity, we have to have what I call here, kitty, kitty statements. Here, kitty, kitty. And again, I have a whole course on
Can I have a
creating
couple?
curiosity, but I'm
Kitty,
going to
kitty,
give
kitty.
you one that will be like an easy one to get started with. And we'll see if you like it because you might not, and that's okay. But think about how you answer really basic everyday questions. So here's a basic everyday question. As a matter of fact, I think I asked it to you. The very first question I asked you when we met, which
Oh
was
no.
today,
Did I
is
fail?
how are you? How
Oh
are
yeah.
you? Right?
Yeah.
Now, you can have like a basic answer, which is fine, good, fantastic, living the dream, whatever, but that doesn't actually open the door to give me anything to like work with here. So, if I say, how are you? Think about something that would open the door that would lead people to want to know more about you or chiropractic or whatever it is that your business is. So I just listened to a podcast. This might be old for you, but I listened to one of your podcasts and you were talking about. So if I was you right now and back in that time, and this might be too long ago, so you can tell me, and I said, how are you? I might say something like, oh, I'm fantastic. The family's just about to head to Japan.
Got it.
Okay. Now, I would only say that if I wanted to talk about Japan and
Mhm.
why the family was going to Japan. But if I want to talk about chiropractic or something about the business, I might say something like, "Oh, I'm fantastic because my business just brought in these new." I heard you talking about this on the podcast too. Something about like
Shockwave probably.
a light
Yeah.
therapy.
Mhm.
Something about light therapy. So you could say, "Oh, I'm fantastic because we have a brand new offer for light therapy, or shock therapy, or whatever
Right,
you said."
right.
Okay.
Yep.
Now you all you do is you give a sentence or two. Anything more than 3 sentence answer to the like how are you question and you're in dog calling energy, right?
Yep. Yep.
So if you said something like that, right, of like, oh, we're doing this red light therapy or we're doing this new, sauna thing in the office or whatever, I could then go, what does that mean? Or who is that for? Or why would you
Mhm.
do that? Now it opens the door for you to talk a little bit more about that and how that helps people and the benefits clients receive. And then what happens? So we're back on step 2 of the selling staircase.
Right.
When you create curiosity, the logical thing that happens next when you're talking to a potential client is they then start to give you buying signals. Buying signals are verbal and nonverbal cues that people give that indicate interest. An example of a buying signal is, let's say I say something about this new thing that you guys are doing in the office. And I say something like, well, what would be the benefit of that? And you answer the question. And then I go, that's so interesting because, one of the struggles that I have right now is, with my, I feel like I have inflammation all the time. And then that's a potential buying signal because you could say something like, well, one of the things that this specifically addresses is inflammation. And the benefit of addressing inflammation is XYZ. Then you're going to follow up with an invitation. You're going to say, is that something you'd like to come in and try?
Oh, see, I don't know that. Is that step 3? Are we on 4? Where do we
Well,
get here? Because it
we're
feels like you just
almost to
went to
step
5.
3. Well, I went to like, it's a potential, like you could actually book an appointment, or if that's too much, okay, if that's too much for you. And
That
I
was
feel
a li
like
that got
I
that,
went a
like,
little
jumped to
far.
dog energy to me. I was like, "Oh."
Okay, a little too far for, okay. Okay. Hang with me then.
'Kay.
So you could say, is that something you'd like to learn more about?
'Kay. Yep. I
Okay.
can mhm.
Now we're going to move to step 3, which is the discovery process in the sales conversation, in the selling
'Kay.
staircase. Okay. The objective there is to ask the right questions that leads people down this path to wanting to hire you. Okay.
So by the
S-
time they're already sitting in front of me as a new patient,
They're
we're
probably on
kind of
step
on step
3.
3 because
Yes.
so, like, either your website, your
Yep.
Facebook ad, your day 1 like, the phone call that they had. So really step 2 is our front desk.
It's your front desk, it's the people in your on your team that are out in the community talking to people.
Uh-huh.
It's stuff that's being posted on social media. It's this stuff, content on your website. It's your newsletters. It's all the places where you're like, there's like this touch, right? This way for people to connect. There has to be some curiosity in those pieces. If there's not, people won't ever lean in and go, tell me more, or what is that? Or
Mhm.
how do I get some of that in my life?
'Kay.
Because again, if all you're doing is talking at people instead of talking with them, talking at is like, here's this new thing that we're offering in the business. But if there isn't like, here are the benefits that you would receive or you receive when you do this, is this something you'd like to learn more about? Or is this something you'd like to have an initial consultation around or whatever it is? If you're not issuing invitations, you have people, I guarantee you right now, who are thinking to themselves, I've always kind of been interested in chiropractic, but I don't really know if it's for me. Until you invite them, then their brain gets to decide, I've always been interested in it. I'm not sure if it's for me. Maybe I should test it out. We got to get them to the maybe I should test this out. Maybe I should give this a try. Should I give it a try? Yeah, I think I will try it and see if it is actually for me. That's how you get more people coming in. This is how you're going to
Mhm.
make a bigger impact in your community, in your business, in the lives of the people who get the advantage of having a session with you.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay,
So they're in my office, 3.
so we're in discovery. So we're going
Yep.
to ask questions to identify, yes, this is the right client. Yes, they've got a problem. And then I'm going to ask permission to put some solutions in front of them.
'Kay.
Because I don't know, and you tell me, I don't know this about your business, but can people buy just a one off session or do you have packages? Or is it like, how does that
They
work?
can buy a one-off. We de-incentivize based on, like, price. So, like,
I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they still have to go through, like, a whole intake process to get to that one-off.
And the intake process is it a paid
Yeah.
service? Okay.
Yep.
So when you're talking to somebody and they're in the office and you've identified like, yes, we could help them, then you're going to say, we actually have an intake process that gets you started. Is that something that you're open to hearing a little more about? And then now they say yes. So you explain the intake process. So now we're in step 4, by the way. We're in proposal. This is where we're laying out an offer. This is where we've got their permission and we're going to tell them
Okay,
how
so
they
4
can
is
buy
kind
from
of
you.
like is the offer. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I lay out like, here's the intake process. This is the benefit of it for you. And here's the price. Okay. Then I'm going to bring in step 5 here. Step 5 is the second most missed step in the selling staircase. And this is the close language. And I want to clarify here. I don't mean that you absolutely have to actually like get their money. But if you're not getting close language out of your mouth and your front desk too, by the way, if they're not issuing closed statements, they are not making it easy for people to buy from you. And therefore they won't because of something called decision fatigue. Have you heard
Mhm.
about decision fatigue?
Oh, yeah.
We all have it, right? I don't know if you know the stats, but they say that the average adult makes a certain number of decisions every single day.
Oh, it's
Have you
disgusting.
heard about this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, for the listener, if you haven't heard this, think about how many decisions on average a day you think you make. And Lauren, if you know the number, great. But if you just would give a guess,
I would guess 2,000.
okay. So they say the average adult makes between 30 and 60,000 now
Yeah,
decisions
I
every
just
day.
according to Google AI, 35 the average person makes 35,000 decisions in a day.
Yep. There you go.
Seemingly subconscious, what to wear, what to eat, how to respond to situations.
Yep.
Many are subconscious.
So we have overload. Now, because our brains are tired and because our brains are frankly a little bit lazy, our brains want to do the bare minimum because they're tired. If we don't have a decision put in front of us in the form of a closed question, we often won't make a decision, we'll postpone it. And think about your own life, Lauren. Have you ever thought to yourself, like, I probably should take some action on this? But it wasn't easy, and so then you postponed it, and then
Mhm.
6 months have gone by, and then pretty soon 2 years have gone by.
Oh, I mean, honestly, like, ironically, rescheduling a teeth cleaning,
There you
like,
go.
called when they're canceled, be like, "I'm not gonna be able to make it, I'm so sorry, call me back, we'll get this rescheduled," and then it's like, they call back 3 days later, but, like, I'm with patients, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, I'll get around to calling you," and, like, yeah,
yeah.
it
But if they had just made it easy in that moment and said, "Hey, no problem, let's get it scheduled right now,"
mhm.
you probably would have. So
Yeah.
just like okay, so back to this okay, so the intake process, the price for that is this. Then we issue close language. We say, "Would you like to go ahead and get that scheduled now?" Okay. And then you wait, you zip it, you wait, you wait and let them respond because their brain needs to process. Do I want to schedule this now? Can I afford this? Is there a reason why I wouldn't schedule it now? You've got to make it so easy for people. And the easier you make it for people to get that next session scheduled with you, to book their chiropractic appointment, to sign up for whatever new program that you're offering, the easier you make it for people, the more likely they are to do it because we love easy. And easy means in the moment while I'm thinking about it right now, not like, hey, take some time to think about it and just let us know when you're ready. Nobody's going to let you know when they're ready because they're never going to think about it again because they're bombarded with their 35,000 other
Mhm.
decisions that are now in front of this decision to come in and have this session with you. And it's not until they're in so much pain that they can't even drive their car that they now are like, okay, do I go back to Lauren or do I just go with this chiropractor who just sent me a flyer in the mail?
Mhm.
It's like, what happened? We didn't make it easy for them.
Yeah, at the end of our so we like it's a review of findings. So this is where we'll sit down and we'll go over like, okay, this is what we found. These are your symptoms. This is, how we think we can help. Da, 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 da. And then we go into like, so I'm recommending this many visits over this many months. These are your payment options. And then I end with like, so what would you like to do? And then like that was something like one of the best pieces of sales advice that
Yep.
have held on to and is like, "And then you shut up."
Yes.
Um, and so, first of all, are you okay? Like, so I literally am going like, "Okay, so you can pay up front or you can pay weekly. What would you like to do?" Are you okay
Yes.
with that, like, that question, or would you
Yes.
Okay,
I want you to say, which do you prefer?
which do you prefer? Okay,
Yeah.
I
I
will
want
do
you to
that.
say, which do you prefer? You can pay up front or you can pay weekly. Which do you prefer? Because now you're saying to their brain, go ahead, make a
You're
decision.
Mhm.
It's
And
okay.
sometimes people will say like, 'cause so then I shut up, and most of the time, you know, it is, like, they'll sit and they are thinking and, like, they're literally calculating, like, "Okay, do I just put it on the credit card? Should I
Yep.
get that? Like, da 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 da." But sometimes they'll, like, look at me and they're like, "Oh, I have to decide now?" And I'm like, "Yes. Yes, you do."
Yeah. To make it easy for you, let's get
Mhm.
started. Like,
Mhm.
let's get it on your calendar because most of us live and breathe our calendars. And if they don't have an appointment on their calendar to come into the office to have a session, like they're going to postpone getting that session scheduled for weeks, months, years. And how is that going to benefit them? It's not.
Mhm.
So it isn't about being pushy or salesy because I think you said at the beginning of this, like you got into chiropractic because you wanted to be of service. Like you care about the people that you're interacting with. You care about the people who are coming into your practice. So, in order to serve, you have to be willing to extend yourself in this way to make it easy for the other person in that moment. Now, if they say, you know what, I need some time to think about this, or I need to talk to my spouse,
Oh, yeah, what do
because,
I say then?
yeah. So here's what I want you to say, but we'll see how realistic this is
Okay.
in your practice. This is what I advise my clients to do is I would say, great. What additional information would be helpful for your spouse to know or what, to help you guys make this decision. So check to see if there's anything else they need. And then I want you to say, when do you think you'll have that conversation? Let's schedule a time now to circle back and answer any questions that come to mind and then talk about next steps for getting you scheduled. Because if you get another time on their calendar, and you could if this worked in your practice, you could say, "What do you think about us scheduling your first session? We'll schedule it a week or 2 out. You have that conversation with your spouse, and if for some reason you know you're not gonna be able to keep this appointment, call us within 48 hours and cancel it. Because now if
Okay.
it's on the calendar, they're so much more likely to keep it. And if you
Mhm.
have a scheduled time to chat with them again, like, how did the conversation go with your spouse? What questions came to mind? Are you ready to get started? What will happen? I call these circle back calls. So I always say, let's schedule a circle back call. That way I can answer any additional questions that come to mind, and we'll talk about next steps for getting you scheduled.
Okay, so I really like this and I wanna figure out how to implement this, like,
Okay.
Monday. So, am I scheduling a okay, so most of the time, a lot of it is women, and so they're
Yeah.
like, "I wanna talk to my husband," and I'm like, "Absolutely, I understand," because
Yeah.
our care plans, are like $1,500 or to that, and yep, okay, I completely understand. When do you think is there any information that you think your husband will wanna know that we didn't discuss or that you want clarity on? When do you think you'll have that conversation? They're probably saying tonight. They're
Yeah.
probably saying, like, tonight or tomorrow morning when you um, I don't feel like I'm trying to, like, smooth out the corners here of, like, am I scheduling okay, so you're gonna talk to him tonight. When would be a good time for us to like, are we scheduling that call tomorrow with my front desk calling? Or am I saying, like, "Great, so let's schedule your first appointment 2 days from now." You see where I'm confused of,
Yeah.
like, which one
Yeah,
am I
yeah. I
scheduling?
gave you 2 options because it needs to be what would work best in your practice.
'Kay.
Best case scenario would be that they book that appointment, but that might be
Right,
too pushy, and it would mess up your schedule if they cancel last minute, and I don't wanna
right.
mess up your schedule, okay? So, if you say, "Okay, great, let's get a time scheduled that our front desk is gonna call you tomorrow, end of day, just to see how the conversation went, and then potentially get you scheduled within the next couple days. What is a good time for them to call you tomorrow?" And then you get it on the calendar. Because what will happen is they're going to see, oh, so and so Sarah from the front office is going to call me from Lauren's practice. Like I'm going to hear from them at 3 tomorrow. So I'm going to have that conversation with my husband tonight and then we'll make a decision. Now, if they have that conversation and the husband says no, they might just shoot you an email and say, "No need to have that call today at
Do I
3. I'm
tell
not
them
moving
that?
forward."
Do
Yeah,
I
if
do
for
I
some
give
reason
them that out?
you can. If you feel like your front desk is wasting a bunch of time on tire kickers, like people who are not gonna buy, then you could give them that out. You could say, "Now, if for any reason you're not ready to move forward, or the conversation doesn't go as well as you hoped, then you're welcome to just either call the office or shoot an email that you wanna cancel that time to talk." Like, you can give them an out. You don't necessarily need to unless you feel like, "Oh my gosh, every time my front desk calls them, they're just like, it's a waste of time."
Well,
But
and
what
that's what I
I
was
find Sorry, go ahead.
Well, so that's what I was gonna ask is like, what's the polite way? Because I feel like when I get I need to talk to my husband, like
Mhm.
in my head, I understand, but I lost it.
Not
Like,
necessarily though.
but when I look statistically,
Okay.
actually at like, yeah, on paper, I'd be like, no, that makes sense. 95% of the time, I need to talk to my husband is a Minnesota nice way of saying, "We're not doing this." So is there a way to
Let
politely
me check that stat with you really quickly, if I
Okay.
may.
Yeah.
Are you scheduling circle back calls?
No, no, we've never
Okay.
done
So
that.
that stat is gonna change when you schedule circle back calls.
Okay.
And here's why, is because if they get on that call with you, if you actually have that call, I guarantee you your close rate is gonna be 50% or higher on that close.
But how do
You're
I
n
ask them, like, "Are you just telling me like, is this a no?" And you're just like, "I'm gonna talk to my husband, I'll call you." Like, what's the polite way to be like,
Most of the
"Just
time,
don't waste my time."
they won't schedule a circle back call with you. They'll say, "You know what? I'll just let you know." And then you say, "Okay." And then I bless and release because I don't believe in chasing clients. I think if you chase clients, they turn into toddlers. So if you
Okay.
say to a toddler
Mhm.
right now, like, "I'm gonna
Yep.
chase you," they don't even know
Yep.
why, but they're off running. So if
Yes.
somebody says to me, like, "Don't call me, Nikki, I'll call you," then I say, "Great. You're totally welcome to call. Be happy to hear from you, and we'd love to, help you when you're ready." And then I consider that a bless and release. I consider that
Yep.
I think you called it the Minnesota nice no. Is that
Yeah.
what you said?
Yep.
Okay. So that's like a Minnesota nice no to me. And I'm like, "Hey, the ball's in your court now. You own it. I'm not gonna
Yep.
chase you."
Okay.
When somebody will schedule a circle back call with me, I have a very high chance of closing that, and if they actually keep the
Yeah,
call,
they actually keep it because then
my
the
close rate
next
is
level of
so
Minnesota nice is,
high.
"Yeah, tomorrow at 10 is great. I know
Yeah,
exactly when to not answer my phone."
that's right. That's right, and then I would leave that message, like, "We had a call scheduled today at 10. I just wanna check to make sure. Are you okay? Is everything all right? Please let us know that all is well with you and give us a call back,
And then if
when
they
you're
don't
ready to move
call
forward."
they don't
Bless and
call,
release.
bless and release. Okay.
Bless and release. They can come back when they're ready. Again, you don't need to chase clients and you don't want your front desk like chasing after people who are like, please stop calling me. I don't know how to be Minnesota nice. And I don't know how to even say, like, no, thank you.
Right.
Okay.
Nikki, this was a fucking amazing episode. I really, really enjoyed this a lot.
Thank you.
How can so you mentioned a book? Like, how can people get more of this? Because I do feel like we got to rapport. That's what we got through in this conversation before I like darted
Oh,
us around.
I love it. I love it. Okay. I have an ebook that I'd love to gift to your audience. It's called Closing the Sale, and it is about boosting your confidence. And frankly, it's got some language suggestions kind of in those last 3 steps of the selling staircase we talked about: discovery, proposal, close, okay? So you can grab it for free. It's my gift to you. You get it by going to yoursalesmaven.com/slays. So this is for your audience, and then we'll be connected. And if you are open to checking out another podcast, I have my own podcast. It's called Sales Maven, and I give lots of tips and strategies and techniques on that podcast. So check it out.
I love that. And we'll have that link below in the show notes as well. She Slayers, I hope that you really loved this episode as much as I did. I want to keep this conversation going. I love talking about sales. We need more successful, happy chiropractors because it is such a cool profession that has an impact. I feel like anytime we talk about sales, it's like people get all like icky, and it's like, no, 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 we're not selling something people don't need. Like this is life changing thing. So I want to keep the conversation going. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, make sure you do that. We send out weekly fun little stories and tips and things like that. So, Nikki, thank you so much again for your time. This was great. And
Thank you for having me.
and you have a new listener. I'll go listen to your podcast too. So,
Thank you.
all right, She Slayers, until next week. Bye.